Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. This is Ezekiel chapter 12. The exile symbolized. Okay, so notice that the title of the chapter is even the exile symbolized. And what we're going to see in this chapter is God tells Ezekiel to do things in a symbolic way. Okay, so not only is God communicating to Ezekiel in a way that's full of symbolism, but he's telling Ezekiel to in turn communicate to the Israelites in a way that's symbolic. This is key here when we're talking about the languages of the Bible, because those people who argue that the cloud is magically literal, they're arguing that the language magically isn't what the top martial arts ever possible, who must be right, says it is. And that they, as some insignificant sheep following a crowd, following just another denomination. When you see a bunch of people, say you see 100 people, they're from 100 different denominations. And the word demon is scrambled in denomination. Then you see the top martial arts ever possible. And you look up demon in the dictionary, it says a skilled performer versus someone who actually is blessed by God to lead. The reason why kings have a sword, David versus Goliath, Isaiah 42:13, Psalm 89, Psalm 18 and 19. And so on and so forth. Exodus 15:3. An abundance of evidence saying you should listen to the top martial arts ever possible. And these guys don't agree with each other, and they're just sheep following just another denomination, which was sheep that were allowed by the devil to establish themselves in this evil world without being screened out, relying on the mere power of the state instead of God's spirit. Who do you think's right? This chapter should overkill what you should know already. So let's get into it. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, you are living among a rebellious people. They have eyes to see, but do not see. They have ears to hear, but do not hear. For they are rebellious people. No matter how much you teach them, every generation, they don't get it. That is the description of the Israelites in the Bible. So can someone turn around and say, hey, I'm a Jew, and this is a story written for my people, and say that they know better? No. Because you know them by their works, not their flesh, especially when they're arguing it's their flesh when the Bible says otherwise. Therefore, son of man, pack your belongings for exile, and in the daytime as they watch, set out and go from where you are to another place. Perhaps they will understand, though they are rebellious people, right? Perhaps they will understand, though they are what? A rebellious people, which goes back to Proverbs 24:21. Fear the Lord and the King, my son, and do not join with rebellious officials. So perhaps, on a fluke, they'll understand, or more specifically, because God knows, because God is God, he's saying perhaps. He's talking to the prophets and the people in the Spirit of God as well. He said, perhaps these people, he said, basically saying they're not going to understand. Maybe a small remnant of them who are less rebellious than others will snap out of it, but they're not going to understand as a people. So he's saying it that way for Ezekiel and the other people in the Spirit of God who are listening. During the daytime, while they watch, bring out your belongings packed for exile. Then in the evening, while they are watching, go out like those who go into exile. While they watch, dig through the wall and take your belongings out through it. Put them on your shoulder as they are watching and carry them out at dusk. Cover your face so that you cannot see the land, for I have made you a sign to the Israelites. So why is he a sign? Right? Because he's a prophet. They know God set him apart as a prophet, like God set me apart as the top martial arts. So they're watching him, saying, what's he going to do? Just like they're supposed to be watching me, not these other videos, and saying, what is he saying? What is he doing? And why? So I did as I commanded. During the day I brought out my things packed for exile. Then in the evening I dug through the wall with my hands. I took my belongings out at dusk, carrying them on my shoulders while they watched. So I had some kind of typo. I decided to kind of improvise there. But that's what it's saying. In the morning the word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, did not the Israelites, that rebellious people, ask you, what are you doing? Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. The prophecy concerns the prince in Jerusalem and all the Israelites who are there. Say to them, I am assigned to you as I have done. So it will be done. So it will be done to them. They will go into exile as captives. The prince among them will put his things on his shoulder at dusk and leave, and a hole will be dug in the wall for him to go through. He will cover his face so that he cannot see the land. I will spread my net for him, and he will be caught in my snare. I will bring him to Babylonia, the land of the Chaldeans, but he will not see it. There he will die. I will scatter to the winds all those around him, his staff and all his troops, and I will pursue them with drawn sword. They will know that I am the Lord when I disperse them among the nations and scatter them, and there they will die. Now, this gets a bit confusing here. There's some symbolism that isn't so important, right? Why dig a hole in the wall, right? Well, there's a lot of things it's symbolic of. The wall protects you. The word law is the word wall scrambled, right? Spelled backwards with one L instead of two. Okay, there's a lot of connections there to the wall. And there's a lot of books in the Bible that talk about walls and fortresses and things that people rely on, right? So it's symbolic of him relying on his pagan deities and him being a prince of pagan deities and not a true prince of God, having established his throne in wickedness instead of righteousness, having established his throne in immaturity and unjust gain, okay, and injustice. And he's going to be caught in the snare of those who established it that way. So it's another way of saying that. And the Bible is very much talking about how there's so many ways, there's infinite ways that God makes it so the wicked are punished. That's part of why things play out the way they do. They say, well, why doesn't God stop the sin in the world? Because for generations you're doing the wrong thing. And you keep breeding children for the wrong reason, so they're doomed to hardship. They're doomed to calamity. That's what the Bible says in many places, right? In many ways, right? They eat the parents eat the flesh of their children, right? They doom them for hardship is what it's saying. They eat their life essence, their spiritual presence, their love, their hope, their chance at a decent family. Okay, it talks about how people are doomed for hardship. It says it flat out, that they will no longer bear children doomed for hardship when they obey God in the right way, when they obey God in a timely fashion and before it's too late. Okay. So again, notice he'll be caught in a snare. And the word snare is like the word spare. So who gets snared and who gets spared? But I will spare a few of them from the sword, famine, and plague, so that in the nations where they go, they may acknowledge all their detestable practices. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Okay, you got to realize that it's not as simple. See, God isn't saying, I've just decided right now. That is the design of the construct. And Ezekiel has a vision as a prophet, right? Vis, ion, on meaning a cult center of God. And that some wicked people seek to put a seat there and have it be a cult center of the devil instead. So it's vying for who is leading, right? The word deal is lead scrambled. So he has a vision of what's going on. And as it's happening, it's like God is saying to him, okay, that I will spare some of these people. But that was always the plan. The plan was, if people face life's test in a way that is righteous, that over time, okay, they'll see the wicked going to hell and being snared, they'll see their failure, and they'll see themselves on their way to heaven. The book of Job kind of confuses this. Jeremiah at some point confuses this because they start questioning, why is this happening? And in Job, God makes it clear, why are you questioning me? First of all, you should already know the answer. Okay, say for example here, if someone would say, well, why are these horrible things happening? You all committed to horrible things. You were like saying, give us Barabbas in your own ways. Okay, and you kept breeding in a way that's evil. Look at the groups you're in: rockers, jocks, gangsters, wicked corporations, hypocritical churches, hypocritical mosques, hypocritical synagogues. Look at the groups that you're in. You thought that you could build on wickedness and your children would, ride off into the sunset, sail off into the sunset? It's stupid. That's not going to happen. We think in Isaiah 57 it says the righteous are taken away to be spared for evil for no reason. You think in Paul's letters it says, I'd rather you not get married and have kids? You think it's for no reason? In Luke 23 it says, blessed are the childless women, the breasts that never nursed, and the wombs that never bore for no reason. And in I think it's Matthew 24, where it talks about the end times, you think it says that they were eating and drinking in the times of Noah and getting married and being given in marriage for no reason. No, it's saying stop reproducing. If you have a kid and you throw her off a cliff, you're going to then say, well, why did God allow you to do that? It's there from Genesis, from the day one, when God creates man in his image. Okay, man has free will. And if he does the wrong thing, it's punished. And there's generational punishments. It says that which you do wrong, something to this effect, it's going to affect you for generations, for a symbolic number, for the number of completion, what have you. And if it's the end of the world, it's going to keep affecting every generation with no way back. It tells you again and again. Genesis, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, again and again. Paul's letters. The four Gospels, at least some of them. It tells you again and again in a straightforward way. You should already know that's the principal design. If you don't care enough to read the Bible and to read it effectively, I can then turn around and say, why does the God in the Bible do this, this, and this? Well, why don't you read the Bible? And why don't you write down the parts that has to do with free will, it has to do with generational suffering? My goodness, you foolish builders. Okay. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, tremble as you eat your food, and shudder in fear as you drink your water. Say to the people of the land, this is what the sovereign Lord says about those living in Jerusalem and in the land of Israel. They will eat their food in anxiety and drink their water in despair, for their land will be stripped of everything in it, but because of the violence of all who live there. The inhabited towns will be laid waste, and the land will be desolate. Then you will know that I am the Lord. The next part is very interesting because it's labeled "There will be no delay," which connects to Revelation 18, where a mighty angel says there will be no more delay. Now, why does that angel say it? To understand that, you have to go to Ezekiel chapter 12, where we are right now. And, 21 through the end, which is like 28. And it's talking about how people were saying, well, these things aren't happening right now. These things aren't happening right now. But things are happening right now. And this is being said for people to understand that it's stupid to say, well, the things he's talking about are happening in the future. Well, you're building your families toward one way or another. You're making decisions that affect yourself, your friends, your family, the world, what have you, one way or another. And there's immediate consequences and there's long-term consequences. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, what is this proverb you have in the land of Israel? The days go by and every vision comes to nothing. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am going to put an end to this proverb, and they will no longer quote it in Israel. Say to them, the days are near when every vision will be fulfilled. Now let's stop right here. Some of you might say, well, then Ezekiel is therefore talking about something that's going on at that time, around 600 BC, what have you. Wrong. Yes and no. It talks about how he's going to do things to the Jews that he'll never do again. Now keep in mind, the population of the Jews isn't that big back then. The Holocaust, if you believe the Jews who identify as Jews today are Jews, the Holocaust that happened to them was like worse than anything that happened to them in the Bible, is the simple answer when we're talking about flesh-based consequences. And that happens, in the 1940s. And this is 600 BC, and there's other books, that say things to that effect. They say something horrible is going to happen that will never again be done. Why will it never again be done? Is because the righteous are going to be taken away from this planet into a new heaven and a new earth. It says that in Isaiah. It says that in the New Testament. Heaven and earth will pass, but my words will never pass away. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. And I go into detail about why that must be, right? What the earth is made of, what the flesh is made of, spiritual bodies versus fleshly bodies. Okay, the marriage and the resurrection, you'll be like angels, you won't be in the flesh. Okay, so why would you be in a physical world if you're not going to be in the flesh, right? You're going to be in the spiritual realm. And I won that kind of exchange over there in Santa Cruz, California on West Cliff with two people at the same time who disagree with me. And that video is there for you who want to see it. And I also made videos around that time where I explained it further. They were adamant that people were going to be in this world. Okay, and I said, I don't believe that. And I gave them enough of an explanation for them to catch the mistake. But I made it crystal clear after that. So I won that exchange in more than one way on the fly. I didn't know those people were going to walk up to me, but the government planned for them to walk up to me. Okay. There will be no more false visions or flattering divinations among the people of Israel, but I, the Lord, will speak what I will, and it shall be fulfilled without delay. For in your days, you rebellious people, I will fulfill whatever I say, declares the sovereign Lord. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, the Israelites are saying the vision he sees is for many years from now, and he prophesies about the distant future. Therefore say to the to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, none of my words will be delayed any longer. Whatever I say will be fulfilled, declares the sovereign Lord. So as we get into the next chapter, Ezekiel chapter 13, it's a very, I urge you to see that video. It's going to be a very good video. I'm about to make it right now. We're going to talk about women, okay? We're going to talk about, this proves my point on Horus versus Set, and how they're using the language of the Egyptians, right? Because the Egyptians covered a whole bunch of, there were hundreds and hundreds and thousands of deities and different cultures in ancient Egypt. And they were all arguing about what they should do in life to some degree, who they should follow. Okay, families were being split up. Some were going to worship one deity, some were going to the other. All of them conceded in their own way, including Set, that Horus was the archetype of Pharaoh. Okay, Set is known in the mythology of Egypt to testify against themselves. So when we get to the part where it says, woe to the foolish prophets who follow their own spirit and have seen nothing. Your prophets Israel are like jackals among ruins. You see them pointing to the losing view in Egypt, no matter how you slice it, whether you go by the Bible or you go by Egyptian history and mythology. The losing view in Egypt were the jackals. Okay, Set is not the archetype of Pharaoh. Okay, and Set is Baal's equivalent. It's going to be a great chapter there.